When Hitler became Chancellor in January 1933, he began to rebuild Germany's armed forces. This policy was known as rearmament. Rearmament had three main purposes. It allowed Hitler to overturn military restrictions imposed by the Treaty of Versailles, it helped reduce unemployment, and it prepared Germany for the future conflicts Hitler was already planning. In this video, we'll outline Germany's path towards full rearmament. After the First World War, the Treaty of Versailles placed strict limits on Germany's military. The arms restrictions stated the German army was limited to just 100,000 men. Conscription, which is the compulsory call-up of men for military service, was completely banned. Germany could only have a volunteer army. Germany was not allowed to have an air force. Germany's navy was severely restricted. No submarines, no battleships over 10,000 tons, and only 6 battleships in total. Germany was not allowed to produce tanks or heavy artillery. These restrictions were designed to make Germany militarily weak. Hitler was determined to overturn every single one of them. Before openly defying Versailles, Hitler made a series of diplomatic moves designed to make Germany appear peaceful while rebuilding its military. In 1933, Hitler withdrew Germany from the World Disarmament Conference. He argued that Germany would only disarm if all of its neighbours did the same, a demand he knew they would never agree to. He also withdrew Germany from the League of Nations that same year. In 1934, Hitler signed a non-aggression pact with Poland. Under this agreement, Germany and Poland promised not to attack each other for 10 years. This helped Hitler appear reasonable and non-threatening to the rest of Europe. These actions bought Hitler valuable time. While European leaders debated how to respond, Germany was quietly expanding its armed forces. In March 1935, Hitler openly defied the Treaty of Versailles by introducing conscription. This directly broke one of the most explicit arms restrictions. Versailles had banned conscription entirely and capped the army at 100,000 soldiers. Conscription meant that young men were now required by law to serve in the armed forces for a set period of time. The results were dramatic. In 1918, the German army had around 100,000 soldiers. By 1939, it had grown to approximately 900,000 soldiers. Germany's navy increased from around 15,000 men in 1918 to approximately 80,000 by the end of 1939. As for the air force, the Versailles Treaty had banned it entirely, but by 1939 it had approximately 380,000 members. Overall, by 1939, around 1.4 million men served in Germany's armed forces. Every restriction on manpower that Versailles had imposed had been broken. In June 1935, Britain signed the Anglo-German Naval Agreement with Hitler. This agreement directly addressed the naval restrictions that the Treaty of Versailles had imposed. Remember that Versailles had banned Germany from building submarines and limited Germany to just 6 battleships. The Anglo-German Naval Agreement effectively legalised German naval rearmament by allowing Germany to build a fleet equal to 35% of the size of Britain's fleet. Germany was also allowed to build submarines equal to 45% of Britain's submarine fleet. This was deeply significant. Britain was openly accepting that the Treaty of Versailles could be rewritten, and it was doing so without consulting France or Italy. This sent a message to Europe that countries could make separate deals that bypassed the original treaty. Britain's reason for signing were mixed. It believed the Treaty of Versailles had been too harsh on Germany and hoped that the agreement would at least put a ceiling on German naval growth. Some British politicians also saw a strong Germany as a useful barrier against communist Soviet influence spreading westward. Rearmament also transformed the German economy. The expansion of the armed forces directly reduced unemployment. Hundreds of thousands of men entered military service, removing them from the unemployment figures. At the same time, the government placed enormous orders for weapons, aircraft and military equipment. This created jobs across German industry, particularly in manufacturing and engineering. In 1933, the government spent about 3.5 billion marks on armaments. By 1939, this had risen to about 26 billion marks. The aircraft industry is a clear example of this change. In 1933, about 4,000 people worked in German aircraft construction. partly because Versailles had banned Germany from having an air force, by 1935 this number had risen to about 72,000 people. It's worth noting, however, that these jobs had been created specifically to prepare Germany for war. They depended entirely on military spending and might not have existed in peacetime. Rearmament was central to Hitler's plans for Germany. By 1939, he had systematically dismantled every one of the arms restrictions the Treaty of Versailles had imposed. The 100,000-man army limit was broken. Germany had 900,000 soldiers by 1939. The ban on conscription was broken. Germany introduced conscription in 1935. The ban on an air force broken. Germany's air force had 380,000 members by 1939. The ban on submarines and naval restrictions were broken with Britain's formal agreement. The Anglo-German naval agreement showed that at least one major power was prepared to accept German rearmament rather than oppose it. Rearmament also helped revive the German economy, tying millions of German workers to military production. By 1939, Germany had become one of the most powerful military forces in the world, built directly on the ruins of every restriction the Treaty of Versailles had tried to impose.